8 months pregnant. Jiyeon asked me to cook a feast at home, filling the table with dishes. He invited his friends over to celebrate his birthday. During a game of truth or dare, Suzu deliberately lost and chose truth. Pointing at my enormous belly, she said, "Anran's stretch marks are so ugly, like countless worms crawling over them." A burst of laughter erupted from the crowd, and the humiliation left what little dignity I had shattered. I forced myself to demand an apology, but Jiyeon's face turned cold. "Zu was just kidding. Why are you taking it so seriously? If you don't want to eat, don't." On a stormy night, he threw me out of the house in just a thin nightgown. Turning back to his friends, he said smugly, 8 months pregnant and still thinks she's a princess. Fat as a pig. Who else would want her besides me? Just wait, she'll be back begging on her knees in less than 10 minutes. But this time, he was wrong. I turned and went downstairs, hailing a cab without hesitation to the hospital to schedule an induced abortion. This kind of man didn't deserve to be a father. That night, the on-call doctor listened to my request for an abortion, sounding uncertain. "You look pretty far along for this. Are you sure you want to proceed? Is the baby's father aware?" "He's dead." Sympathy flickered in the doctor's eyes. But because Jiyeon had never been to any prenatal appointments and we weren't legally married, so he wasn't in the system, she didn't question me further. After confirming multiple times, she scheduled the procedure for 2 days later. On my way back, I tried to be as careful as possible, but the rain was so heavy that my nightgown was soaked through. The cold wind bit like ice. I seemed oblivious, numbly walking upstairs and opening the door. The party was over. Jiyeon was sitting on the sofa smoking, his face darkening as he heard the door open. He grabbed a pillow from beside him and threw it at me. "It was just a little game at the party. Did you really need to get so upset and play running away late at night? Zu is still a kid. What does she know? You're about to be a mother. Do you have to be so petty with her?" Saying my stretch marks were like worms was a joke. Saying I was fat as a pig was a joke. Everything she said targeting me was just a joke in Jiyeon's eyes. Zu was young, an immature child, but he forgot that before I married him, I was just a young girl too. I was only 1 year older than Zu. Why was I expected to tolerate so much unconditionally? Every time I reacted negatively to something Zu said, he would invariably side with her, joining her in tearing me down. "Zu is right, you know. Why are you so sensitive? Can't you take anything? Can't handle a little truth?" I was angry. I was disappointed. I fought with him recklessly, desperate to preserve the last shred of dignity I had in this marriage. But now, I didn't want to fight anymore. It wasn't worth it for a relationship this rotten to the core. The pillow hit my waist, leaving it sore and aching. He must have thought my silence meant I admitted I was wrong. I stayed quiet, planning to just go back to the bedroom. But when I opened the bedroom door, Suzu walked out wearing a revealing nightgown. Seeing me, she feigned surprise. "Oh, Anran, I'm so sorry. I didn't know you'd be back. I crashed here temporarily and didn't have clothes, so I borrowed yours. You can't wear them now anyway since you're pregnant and bigger. You don't mind, right?" I frowned and turned to the man on the sofa, wanting an explanation. Through a puff of smoke, he said coldly, "It's pouring outside. I was worried about her going back alone, so I told her she could stay here tonight. You're not going to pick a fight with me over this, are you?" He completely ignored his 8-month pregnant wife who was soaked from the rain. Yet he was so concerned about his so-called sister, utterly disillusioned. I couldn't be bothered to argue and walked straight into the bedroom. I missed the flicker of surprise in his eyes. It assumed with Suzu here, Jiyeon wouldn't spare me a second glance tonight, but unexpectedly, he crept into the room just before I fell asleep. His hand, hot against my skin, rubbed my waist. He sounded somewhat apologetic. "Does it still hurt? Come on. Why can't you just let it go? So many guys were there tonight. It was just a joke. Why are you getting so upset? It's not good for the baby. Be good. Stop making a scene. You still care about the baby?" My voice was laced with unconcealed sarcasm. He froze for a moment as he leaned in to kiss me. I took his hand and guided it to the streaks on my belly. He recoiled as if I'd seen a ghost. Noticing his overly strong reaction, he was about to apologize when his phone rang. In the quiet room, I could hear Zu's tearful voice. "I'm sorry, Brother Jiyeon. It must be my fault. Anran is angry. I shouldn't stay here and be in your way. I'll go back by myself. Don't worry about me." Before she finished, there was a gasp, and the call ended. Jiyeon panicked. He quickly threw on a jacket and yanked me off the bed. "If anything happens to Zu tonight, I swear I'm done with you. You're the one to blame." I didn't make her go out late at night. How is that my fault? I couldn't fight him off and was eventually dragged into the car. I was still in that thin nightgown, sneezing uncontrollably in the cold wind. But he acted as if he didn't hear. He floored the gas pedal. 10 minutes later, we finally saw Suzu's figure lying on the side of the road. He immediately jumped out of the car, scooped her up, and raced madly towards the hospital. He didn't forget to warn me, if anything happens to Zhu, I won't forgive you. While Zhu was being examined, my belly started cramping. The stress of the night had finally taken its toll. Sweat beaded on my forehead, and I leaned against the wall to keep from collapsing. After a long while, Jian finally noticed me, but he said coldly, "Don't put on a show for me." She fell. Did you fall too? Anran, I never thought you were this kind of person. You seem decent on the surface, but secretly you can't even tolerate a young girl. The on-call doctor from the night before walked past me, looking hesitant as she pointed at us. What's your relationship? Didn't you say? My heart sank. As I was struggling to explain, Suzu cried out weakly from the room. The next second, the man beside me turned and went back inside. I managed a bitter laugh. It's nothing, distant relatives, just a couple fighting. The doctor sighed lightly. Even though you've scheduled the procedure, you're far along, you still need to be careful. Don't get caught up in young couples drama. If something goes wrong, you might not even make it to the surgery. I nodded, watching the doctor walk away, my heart heavy with sorrow. I wanted to crouch down and rest, but Jian came out again and yanked me inside. Pointing at Suzu on the bed, he said fiercely, "Apologize to her." Anran, if you hadn't made a scene tonight, Zhu would have been home safe. How else would she have been hit by a car? I frowned, laughing bitterly at his shameless words. I made a scene? Didn't you hear her personal attack? Jian, I'm carrying your child. When she insults me, she's insulting you. Are you an idiot? This was the first time in 5 years I had given him such a cold look. Jian's eyes turned red with anger. Before he could speak, Suzu started crying from the bed. I'm so sorry, it's all my fault. I just wanted to lighten the mood. I didn't expect Anran to take it the wrong way. Please don't fight because of me. It's all my fault. Once I'm better, I'll resign and leave this place. I'll never appear before you again. Jian suppressed his fury and bit out, I'll say this one last time. Anran, apologize. Stop being petty with a young girl. I've told you this many times. I looked at him coldly. Our eyes locked for a long time, and then turned and walked out of the room without a word. The moment I stepped outside, I heard his roar from behind me. Go ahead and leave. If you leave, don't ever come back. Anran, you'll come crawling back to me with that belly begging. Tears streamed down my face. Under the onlookers staring like they were watching a show, I quickened my pace. The storm outside hadn't stopped. In the large hospital, I was the only one walking around in a thin nightgown. The hospital was in a remote location, and I couldn't get a cab for the longest time. I wondered if the baby sensed my difficult situation, as it stopped moving and became quiet. After waiting for 2 hours, the rain stopped. I walked 3 kilometers to the nearest hotel and checked in. It was already a.m. As I was paying, a social media update popped up. I glanced at it. It was from Suzu. The photo showed a man holding a steaming bowl of congee in front of her, his hand massaging her swollen ankle. The caption read, "Sweet talk is nothing compared to midnight congee. Someone who loves you is never tired. Thank you, brother." The post had just gone up and already had several likes, without exception. They were all from Jian's friends who had stayed up all night after the party. They had always looked down on me but were exceptionally attentive to Suzu. It wasn't hard to imagine what role Jian, acting as the go-between, had played, or how he had framed my pathetic attempts to win him over back then in front of his friends. Just as I was about to close my phone, several comments quickly appeared. Wow, truly Gu Jian, an ace at everything. So good at making congee. I've known you for 10 years. How did I not know you had this skill? Not cool. Next time, let's have Gu Zucheng show us his skills himself at the party. Gives you a chance to show off in front of Zhu too. If I remember correctly, someone once said they'd never put effort into a woman in their life. How are you eating your words today? Looks like our Princess Zhu has serious pull. Every comment highlighted how cheap and pathetic I was as his wife. Well, yes. Married for 5 years without a certificate. Now 8 months pregnant. Certainly cheap. No wonder he didn't cherish me. I laughed at myself mockingly, closed my phone, and went into the hotel room to rest. Before, fearing H call me to pick him up from late night socializing, I never dared to put my phone on silent. But now, I set it to do not disturb. I slept until noon the next day. When I opened my eyes, I saw countless messages from him. You didn't come home? Where are you? Send me your location, Anran. Can't you see my messages? What are you playing at? Don't go too far. Zoo isn't mad about yesterday anymore. She wants to invite you to see a movie to clear the air. Take this chance to talk things out. Stop giving me attitude all the time. His words made it sound like offering me a way out was a great favor. I rubbed my tired forehead, thinking it was probably best to make things clear anyway. I sent him the hotel's location. His car pulled up downstairs. The passenger window rolled down, and Jian looked me up and down, frowning in displeasure. You came out in a bathrobe? Are you deliberately trying to embarrass me? Zhu spent the whole night defending you yesterday, and here you are making trouble again today? With only a day and a half left, I really didn't want to talk to him much. My nightgown got soaked yesterday. What else was I supposed to wear? Jian's unspoken criticism choked in his throat. Seeing this, Suzu narrowed her eyes and smiled sweetly. I told you Anran wasn't that bad. It must be a misunderstanding, and talking it out will fix everything. Brother Jian just brought me a jacket. Try it on and see if it fits. You can wear it for now. I twitched my lips, expressionless. No thanks. Use goods? I think they're dirty. Seeing she had no intention of moving, I got into the back seat on my own. Jian was about to explode but turned and looked at me, seeming surprised by how calm I was today. For a moment, he was taken aback. Only then did Suzu speak up, sounding like an afterthought. Oh, I'm sorry Anran, my foot is still hurt, and there's more space up front. You'll have to be uncomfortable in the back for now. I could feel Jian watching me through the rearview mirror, but I still didn't say anything, just closed my eyes tiredly. Throughout the ride, Suzu brought up changing my clothes several times. I knew she was subtly criticizing me for being unkempt, but now I didn't even want to bother arguing with her. Eventually, Jian couldn't stand it anymore and said, "Leave her alone, let her wear what she wants. Who's going to look at a pregnant woman about to give birth?" His dismissive tone made Suzu look smug. She chattered on and on about how good the kanji was last night, or how fun the party games were. In short, it was all about their shared memories, places I hadn't been. I was happy to be left alone and use the time to rest. Pregnancy made me exhausted all the time. Jian kept watching my reaction. When we got to the movie theater, I was still expressionless, which made him seem a little uneasy. Sit next to me inside. The theater is dark. Be careful you don't trip. Hold on to me when we go in. I hadn't expected to get a farewell movie with him thanks to Suzu before we parted ways. I laughed at myself bitterly, but as soon as we walked in, Suzu excitedly grabbed him and ran off ahead again. I was left alone. When I found my seat, Jian was helping Suzu unscrew a drink bottle cap. In the dim light, a flicker of apology crossed his eyes. Zhu was in a bit of a hurry just now, so I didn't look out for you. Don't be mad. I nodded, indifferent. It's fine, not just this time. I won't ever be mad again. After the movie, don't leave right away. I have something to say to you. But he didn't seem to hear me, as Suzu called him again to help her open the popcorn. Halfway through the movie, a steel frame from the ceiling suddenly fell. In 2 seconds of reaction time, people around me were bending down or ducking. Only I, the pregnant woman, was frozen, covered in sweat. With a loud crash, the steel frame hit. Jian was shielding Suzu tightly. Luckily, the frame landed right in front of me. 1 inch further and it would have impaled my belly. He didn't check on me. The moment the emergency lights came on, he scooped up Suzu and rushed out. In the end, it was the rescue team who helped me out. Outside, I didn't see any sign of Jian. The rescue team was concerned and took me to the hospital for a checkup. Finally, I saw him at the emergency room entrance. He was busy waiting in line for Suzu. Looks like you're pretty lucky. Anne ran. Suzu's voice reached my ears, completely different from her usual sweetness, cold and chilling. You're not doing too bad yourself, I retorted, my eyes fixed on Jian's back as he paid the bill. My shattered heart broke further in that moment. The last bit of lingering affection was completely used up. At this point, there was truly no need to hold on to this relationship. Suzu reached out and touched my belly. A strange cold smile on her face. I frowned and slapped her hand away. A strong sense of unease rose in my heart, but I was still a step too slow. She grabbed my hand and deliberately threw her body backward towards the stairs behind her. The bracelet on my wrist was torn off by her, shattering into pieces on the ground. With a loud crash, Jian's figure rushed past me. Annoyed that I was in his way, he shoved me hard. The force was so great that I tumbled down the stairs. I stopped only after hitting the wall with my belly. The sudden, intense pain numbed my nerves, blurring my vision. Only a weak plea escaped my lips. Jian, help me. But he didn't even look at me, just held Suzu and rushed through the emergency room door before I lost consciousness. The on-call doctor from that night walked past me and immediately called for help. Surgery time. Move it up. I need the induced abortion now. Seeing the blood pooling beneath me, she stammered, even if you wanted to keep it now, you probably couldn't. Quick. Prepare for the induced abortion. The patient already has an appointment. Hearing that last sentence, I closed my eyes, relieved. The moment the anesthetic entered my body, I seemed to hear Jian's panicked voice. What? Where did you take my wife? Wife? Could someone who had been married for years but wasn't even deemed worthy of a legal certificate be called a wife? My lips twitched into a smile, but I was in too much pain to muster any strength. I only felt that the person I had wronged the most by holding on to this marriage was myself. And this unborn child, if he had shown this side of himself from the beginning, perhaps I wouldn't have clung to him so desperately. The voices outside the operating room grew louder. For the first time, Jian was arguing with someone for me. But it was at this moment, get out of my way. Don't touch me. Where's my wife? She just fell right here in your hospital. Where did you take my wife? Sir, please calm down. Is there some misunderstanding? The pregnant patient having surgery inside said her husband is deceased. What are you talking about? I'm her husband. Is her name Anren? That's my wife. Please show us your marriage certificate. I don't know how much time passed. In my dream, I seemed to return to 5 years ago. Jian in my memory was still that quiet man, but in every detail of our time together, he showed genuine emotion. Our hearts grew closer, and I chose to stay in the city for him. My mother looked at me with disappointment and heartache. Anran, have you thought this through? Once your father and I go abroad, you'll be all alone here. Young Jian thumped his chest firmly, swearing in front of my parents. Uncle, auntie, please rest assured, I will give Anren happiness even if it kills me. I will take good care of her. From now on, she will be the most important person in my life. The scene shifted after graduation. I didn't get a job. Instead, I stayed in the kitchen, becoming Jian's helpmate. He worked on his startup during the day, and I did housework and took care of things at home. When he had evening engagements, I would wait for him outside the apartment building. During the hardest times, I ate ramen for 6 months just to help him gather funds for his project, but every day, I'd find photos online from delivery apps to send to my parents abroad to ease their worries. Those days lasted for 2 years. Back then, Jian would still feel for me, still understand my efforts and my grievances. Every holiday, he would surprise me in his own way. They weren't expensive, but they were full of heart. He said that once his company did well, he would make me the happiest woman. We would have a wedding, get a marriage certificate, buy a big villa as our marital home, and have a cute child. He would prove to my parents that my choice was not wrong. That period, though tough, was the happiest time of my life. Now, Jian's startup was successful, but he had lost me. He started getting busier, and I waited at home later and later. Sometimes I waited all night, only to receive a message from him in the morning. Sometimes, not even that. He said that's how everyone was. No successful man just revolved around his wife, the promises he made. In the end, only I remembered. I survived for 5 years on nothing but empty promises. It wasn't until this pregnancy that he probably assumed I wouldn't leave him. He became even more brazen, doing increasingly terrible things. That's when I learned how worthless I was in front of his friends. When he was drunk, he would boast about how he married me for free. I cooked and cleaned for him. And now I was going to have his children. I bit my lip. And during the mocking stares of the crowd, I kept lying to myself, telling myself that as long as he was still by my side, nothing else mattered. But when he brought Suzu home, my heart shattered. He said Suzu was just his secretary. She was young, and he treated her like a sister. But I didn't believe a word of that flimsy excuse. Seeing him act with unprecedented tenderness and care towards her, seeing him behave like a lovesick teenager, I knew it was time for me to leave, but I was unwilling. How could I just let go? My best years, and even my unborn child. I had worked so hard for 5 years, essentially paving the way for another woman. How could I willingly let someone else take my place? So I became the person I used to despise the most. I fought with him like a shrew, demanding to know his relationship with that woman. The last vestiges of our feelings were quickly worn away. Suzu's mockery at the party that night, and his limitless indulgence of her, became the final straws that broke the camel's back. Mother, I finally understood your words. But it was already too late, the surgery wasn't smooth. The impact from the fall was too severe. The hospital stairs were quite high. The baby was already stillborn inside me when I arrived. Without even needing the scalpel, I started hemorrhaging badly. In my daze, I could hear the doctors frantically calling for blood bags. I could also hear the nurses responding that there were no blood bags in stock. For a moment, I actually thought, maybe it's better to just die otherwise. After the abortion, I didn't know how I would face my parents. One wrong choice had almost ruined my entire youth. I don't know which kind soul donated blood, but my cold body started to warm up again under the emergency treatment. The doctor finally sighed in relief. Her life is saved. Let's proceed with the induced abortion. Soon, my flesh was cut open, torn apart. The marks that Suzu had called like worms crawling over now looked truly horrifying. The baby finally left my body. When they were stitching me up, the anesthetic wore off, and I passed out from the pain. When I woke up again, I had been moved to a regular ward. The doctor was standing by my bed, constantly monitoring my condition. The moment I opened my eyes, she asked anxiously, Miss Zhu, when you booked the induced abortion, didn't you say your husband was deceased? Then who is that man outside claiming to be your husband? I followed her gaze and turned my head with effort. Jian was standing in the hallway, his eyes bloodshot. I don't know him, never seen him. Maybe he has some mental issues. He doesn't have a marriage certificate, so he's a liar. The doctor looked at the patient chart in her hand. After a moment's hesitation, she said, but he donated quite a bit of blood for your surgery. The hospital blood bank was out of stock. They drew almost half his body's blood. That's what he owes me. He's the one who caused me to fall down the stairs. I closed my eyes, my face weary. I didn't want to talk about it anymore. The doctor was afraid of hindering my recovery. Seeing that I was awake, she could only leave the room for now. She seemed to say something to Jian. I saw his face filled with urgency, arguing for a long time. Then he left. The image of him pushing me on the stairs was still vivid. Looking at him now made me feel sick to my stomach. I had thought our inexplicable beginning would lead to an equally inexplicable end, and then we would silently disappear from each other's lives. I had even bought my plane tickets to go abroad and find my parents. But he appeared at the hospital, holding that simple wedding photo from years ago. He explained for a long time to my doctor, who finally reluctantly believed him. She brought him to me then. She looked at me with pity and left the room. I closed my eyes and heard footsteps, but I didn't react. After watching me for a long time, Jian finally couldn't hold back. I'm sorry. I was too rushed just now. I didn't expect that to happen. Zhu has always been delicate, and I was afraid Yao'd hurt her badly and I wouldn't be able to explain to my colleagues at the company. I swear, when I rushed past, I really didn't see you. Otherwise, I would never have bumped you. The baby in your belly is my own flesh and blood. I would never hurt my own child. The stitches from the surgery were still throbbing with pain, but he had used so much effort, and the first thing he did when he saw me was try to justify his actions. He didn't ask if the surgery hurt. He didn't ask how I was feeling. He didn't ask, where is the baby? I looked at his serious and nervous face and suddenly laughed. Tears slid down my face uncontrollably, dripping into my collar. The place where my heart should be felt cold and empty. What's wrong? Anran, wife, don't scare me. Are you feeling unwell? Just hang on, I'll call the doctor right away. Wait. I stopped him. He looked completely taken aback. No need. Let's break up. Jian, I'm tired. I can choose not to blame her, and I can choose not to blame you, but please, never appear in front of me again. Not in this life, or the next. I never want to see you again. Perhaps he hadn't expected me to be so resolute. Our eyes met, and he froze in place. After a long time, he finally snapped out of it. His phone ringing startled him. He pulled out his phone and glanced at the caller ID. His eyes immediately became shifty. I managed a sarcastic smile and didn't look at him again. Go ahead. I told you, don't appear in front of me. Whoever you're with, it has nothing to do with me. 5 years of a relationship and marriage, and leaving required no extra goodbyes. As rushed as our beginning was, our ending was just as messy. I had expected him to leave without hesitation when he got Zhu's call, but this time, he hung up. I know you were wrong today, but I promise this is the last time. I can explain things clearly to Zhu. I've always just seen her as a sister. Sometimes when I see her, It's like seeing a younger version of you, and I can't help but want to protect her. Hearing that, I looked at him, my face full of disdain. Jiyeon, I'm still alive. You don't need to use someone completely unrelated to me to mourn me. Don't use me as an excuse for your cheating. It's disgusting. Seeing my determined attitude, he finally panicked. Anran, how can you think that? I'm not that kind of person. You know that. We've been together for 5 years. Have I ever betrayed you? This time, it really is your fault for being petty, which led to this. It was something that could have ended if you just swallowed your pride, but you had to make it into this big scene. I didn't want this either. I had never felt so exhausted in my life. I let him dump all the blame on me. I couldn't even be bothered to explain myself. Think whatever you want. If you think a mother shouldn't fight back after being insulted like that, if you think I pushed her, then yes, I did it. Fine, stop holding back. Take this chance. And let's go our separate ways. He was about to explain further when his phone rang again. This time, he didn't linger. He looked at me with disappointment and left the ward as soon as he was gone. I took out my phone and sent a message to my parents abroad. I told them I would come visit in 2 weeks. This time, I wasn't coming back. My mother knew me too well. The moment she saw the message, she knew I must have been hurt. She called, and I couldn't help but start sobbing, but I didn't dare answer. I was afraid she would hear my voice and realize what I had been through. After a long wait, the call automatically ended, and she called again after several attempts. Mom finally gave up. Only then did I pretend I had just seen my phone and replied to her message. Sorry, I was eating French food just now. Didn't see my phone. It's nothing. I just miss you guys. Being with family is more important. After all this time, I've realized that Jiyeon and I aren't a good fit. Maybe you were right back then. After confirming the travel time with my parents, they said they would pick me up at the airport. A long-lost warmth spread through my heart. This lonely hospital room finally felt less cold. Nurses came in and out to change my dressing. One of them asking hesitantly, Miss Zhu, what's your relationship with that Mr. Gu? He has your wedding photo, but he keeps taking care of another woman in a different room? Really? Those are just photos from when I used to model. Don't take it seriously. We're just colleagues. Perhaps it was the last bit of my self-respect. I didn't want outsiders to see me as a joke. I made another casual lie. The moment the words left my mouth, I froze. Since when had I become so used to lying? I used to despise people like that. That night, I rested alone in the ward, in my drowsy state. I thought I heard Jiyeon arguing with the doctor. My wife lost the baby at your hospital because she fell. You have to take responsibility. What were your nurses doing? Why didn't they find her immediately? My baby could have been saved, and my wife almost died. You must take responsibility. The doctor grew impatient and said coldly, Sir, please calm down. The induced abortion was scheduled by this lady 2 days in advance. Even if she hadn't fallen, the baby wouldn't have made it. Besides, when the patient fell, our colleagues saw it with their own eyes. She was pulled towards the stairs. If you don't believe me, you can call the police and check the surveillance footage right now. The door opened. In the dim light, Jiyeon's face was grim. His eyes held a complex mix of emotions as he looked at me. I lay on the hospital bed, frowning uneasily. He tucked in my blanket corner and carefully closed the curtains for me. Wife, I'm sorry. A light apology, barely audible, was scattered by the night wind. When I woke up the next day, he was gone. Only the steaming hot congee in the thermos on the bedside table showed that he had been there. I asked the nurse to throw away the container and bought a hospital breakfast instead. The nurse looked hesitant, glancing at me with uncertainty. After a long pause, she finally couldn't hold back. Didn't you hear? That Mr. Gu called the police first thing this morning and had someone arrested from the hospital. When he went to the police station to cooperate with the investigation, he specifically told us to take good care of you. I looked up, asking faintly, who did they arrest? The person who tried to drag you down the stairs that day. I unlocked my phone and checked the news. Sure enough, the photo showed Suzu's distorted, angry face. It seemed her plot had been exposed, and she couldn't be bothered to keep up the pretense. She had simply reverted to her true self. The comments section speculated that deliberately pushing a pregnant woman was practically attempted murder and she'd likely spend a few years in jail. But looking at these messages, I felt nothing. Even killing her now wouldn't bring back my child. Although I had decided on the abortion, being forced into it by falling was completely different from having it voluntarily. That day, I hadn't actually been ready. It was only Jiyeon's bias and cold attitude that had enraged me. Seeing I didn't respond, the nurse felt awkward, left the breakfast, and went out. I closed my phone and ate my meal. Jian hurried back to the hospital. He didn't say a word to me and started doing things around the room himself. It was as if there was an unspoken understanding. He didn't speak, and neither did I ask. A week passed like this. My stitches were removed, and I could get out of bed and walk around. The doctor said there were no major issues and I could go home to recover. Jian immediately took out a black card and wanted me to stay in the hospital longer. I finally couldn't help but argue with him. I want to be discharged. What are you thinking? There are people to take care of you here. If you go back, I have to work, and I'll be worried. His serious, stubborn look momentarily made me think we were back 5 years ago. But between us, we could never go back. Jian, I just had an induced abortion. Why are you being so serious? The moment I said that, his face looked hurt. He didn't understand. Anran, that was our child. How can you be so casual about it? I don't blame you for impulsively booking the surgery behind my back. I know I was wrong first. But now the misunderstandings are slowly clearing up, and we'll be back together. Can't you give me one chance? I lifted my hospital gown, revealing my belly covered in marks. What? Doesn't it disgust you now? Jian, I'm not the Anran I used to be, and you're not the you from before either. Between us, it's over. I stubbornly insisted on discharging myself. He was angry and gave me the cold shoulder. After driving me home, he went straight to work at his company. I was happy to have peace and quiet and took the opportunity to pack my bags for going abroad. That night, I sorted through all the gifts he had given me over the past 5 years. It was pathetic. They didn't even fill a single cardboard box. As I took them downstairs and threw them into the trash can without hesitation, he drove home. He came inside, washed his hands, and went into the kitchen. 2 hours later, looking at the table full of dishes, I realized he had cooked for me. Thinking about how I had cooked in that kitchen for 5 years and never once tasted his cooking, I gave a bitter laugh at myself in that moment. I ate the meal without tasting anything, thinking I would leave tomorrow. I suppressed all my emotions, but after clearing the table, he took a gift box from his jacket and placed it in front of me. 5th anniversary gift. Take a look. No thanks. Keep it for your next one. Anran, do you have to be so hurtful? Compared to Suzu, I think this counts as praise. Although Suzu would no longer appear before us, she had already become an impassable chasm between us. We both knew that. I took my bedding and slept in the guest room that night. My phone vibrated nonstop, filled with Jian's apology messages. Mixed in were huge money transfers. The green chat bubbles from before finally changed color at this moment, but I had no desire to look at them. When dawn came, I heard him close the door and leave. I got up, washed, and called a taxi to the airport. On the way, I deleted all his contact information directly. I only left one message: never again. This is where it ends. That apartment was property he bought after his startup succeeded. It had nothing to do with me, so leaving felt easy. Letting go of this relationship was easier than I had expected. Perhaps many moments before had just lacked that final bit of disappointment. Now, after putting in the effort, I had no regrets left. The moment the plane took off, I said goodbye to the person I used to be, hoping that every day going forward would be better than all the years that came before.